exactly what I wanted to add. Is that what happened is, as a man throughout my life, I've been told, don't get angry, don't do this, unless, except for the times that I served for 15 years in the forces,
Yeah.
use that aggression for a purpose and do this thing, which was, liberating in a way. But you need to be able to, once again, when I was telling you about freedom of men getting together, letting some steam out and doing these things, because it's so important, because so many times through our lives, from our mom, from our teachers, from work, and now even more so in today's society, don't show any aggression, don't be angry, don't say these words, don't say. So men are like bottling all of this up, and then they reach out to you and me and they go, I can't take it anymore. And that's when everything blows up. And it's 100 times worse than what it should have been. And men will self-destruct, basically self-sabotage, to be able to get out of this trap that we're in, that was self-created, and was, because we couldn't express the way that we feel.
Yeah.
And because, once again, we don't want to scare you. And if my wife tells me, you know what, I don't like this from you, so you need to go somewhere else and do it, or this is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that I'm not talking, you should never accept any violence or any aggression or anything like that. But if you are in a healthy relationship, and like you said, I perfectly love the way you reacted to Andrew, was you let him vent. And usually we men know how to achieve that by working out, going out with buddies. We need a physical outlet most of the time. And for men that are listening, to add on the part of women going through their emotion, is, once again, just like you, that outlet of sitting in it and talking about it. And I'm going to call it stewing here. They're just these things which men are like, I call it stewing because I'm like, why are you sitting in this? Right? Why don't you go work out, or, pump up something, or just like scream it out. Right. Yeah. And the thing is that, once again, that's just me being a man. But when I allow my partner to just sit in it, and I'm going to use the term again, stew in it and everything, that's their outlet, guys. Mm-hmm. That is her connecting to herself, being self-aware and saying, that, and then you can say, you know what, just like you said earlier, mm-hmm. I understand. I can just imagine how it is, and don't try to fix it. That's all it is, right? Because the true secret to keep a woman, she wants to be seen, heard, and safe.
Yeah,
that's what it is. So if she feels unseen, unheard, and unsafe, she's gonna go away. It's the same as a man. If you criticize, you close yourself up, and you control him, mm-hmm. he's gonna go away. It might take 10 years, but at one point, he's just gonna say, "That's it. I've given you everything I could. Now I'm trapped, and I feel trapped, and I need to go away." I went, to share with your audience. I just came back from a month and a half of driving across Canada on my own. I've listened to 22 books, but the most important thing was I spent a month and a half with myself. Mm-hmm. I have found sides of me that had been so deeply bottled up that I'm a completely transformed man. And me and you, we know, Kimbo, and the type of work that I do. But I went, based on, if you want to have an idea, read or listen to the book, The Alchemist from Paulo Coelho.
I love that. It was one of my.
I've read this book 3 times, but I've listened to it. It was the first book I've listened to on the road, and it's so relative to what I went through. And in the book, there's this quote that the lady that he meets in the desert says to him: "Every man needs to go on a journey across the desert to find him this treasure." Right? It's all about the philosopher's stone and this treasure. And of course, I don't want to spoil it for everybody, but the journey is the treasure. But the thing is that it was important. And that's why I'm honest to say that was my midlife crisis, because I was self-imposed, stuck into this personality that I create of being a father, a husband, a coach, a professional, all these things. And I had forgotten about little Bruno, the Bruno that wants and needs to have fun, the Bruno that wants and needs to let loose, to go out into the forest and have fun, to go. And that's why this summer is a completely out of context summer for me. I'm going to Shambhala, which is this great festival. It's like the Burning Man of British Columbia. It's I would have never agreed to go to these kind of. I was invited many times. I was like, this is so now I'm going to go hug trees and hippies, just so you know, because I'm all into it. And I'm going camping, and I'm going and doing heli hikes, and I'm doing things that I needed to do because those are the things that drive me. And because I'm doing these things, I'm already a better dad and a better husband and a better caretaker because I'm being me.
Fascinating. And I'm just like totally absorbed in what you're saying. And my question is, how does one go on this kind of journey when they feel financially constrained, when they feel stuck in their job? Tell me how a man, because people are listening and like, that sounds great, Bruno, but I work full time and I don't have money to take a month and a half off to do that. And they're probably angry with you because it might feel easy that you did it and they can't. So how does somebody do that for themselves when they feel so programmed and stuck, especially financially?
Right. First of all, Kimball, you know how I appreciate these incredible questions that you come up with. And that one is so powerful because it's a question and a reaction that I got from people. And also my wife, I want to talk to you about that one. When my wife was telling her coworkers and friend that I was gone on the road, she didn't know when I was going to come back and all these things. You know what the first answers were? You let him go.
Oh gosh. Oh, that's awful.
Do you understand this? This is projection. That has nothing to do with my wife, but it has to do with the person that was stating this. You let him go as if she owns me or I own her, which is not the case. But I understand the question and it's a very, very important question. You're absolutely right. A lot of people, most people would say, Bruno, I can't do that. I can't do that. I don't have the money and I don't have the time to do it. And you're absolutely right. Depending on your situation and everything, I'm lucky. I work for myself. I can work from the road. I had told my clients I was taking this trip, so we had changed some appointments and everything. I did meet some clients on the road as well, so I'm lucky for that. Financially, I could do it. Also that I had budgeted for it, and I was and the gas is super high, and the hotels are high. Everything is inflation right now, so I don't know why. God called me to go on this trip, but it was really needed. And then I did that. To answer your question, you don't need to go away for a month and a half. You don't need to spend a lot of money on this. Here's what I'm going to tell you. And it's because of the society we live in. I'm going to hold my phone here up for everybody, is that we're constantly distracted. Everybody that I talk to is afraid. And I'm gonna ask the audience to just take a few seconds here and to think, when's the last time you actually spent time with yourself in complete silence, in the woods or anything like that? When's the last time? Kimbo, you can answer that. When's the last time you spent time with yourself more than 5 minutes? I'm talking about half a day or even a full day in complete silence with yourself.
Okay. I'm an odd case because I do that often. I don't live with Andrew and I do work from home. So I have a lot of silent time to myself. And that time is tough for me, by the way. Like sitting with my own emotions and being in my own company sometimes feels really easy. Sometimes is really tough. But really, if I were to stretch it and say, because I'm kind of used to that, the last time that I went out alone and went on a big journey, I used to travel alone. I've been to Egypt alone. I've been to Paris alone. I traveled to Ecuador for 2.5 months when I was like 16 alone and met people. And so it's been many, many years for me since I've done something like that, which was very like earth shattering for me. I learned a lot about who I was as a person through travel and going places on my own. And it's been a long time since I've done that.
Here's the answer for this. So once again, you don't need to go on a big journey. What I'm going to tell you is this, and I do this with my clients, and they're scared. They're terrified of being left. And most of people are going to say, Bruno, the voices, like there's so many things. And I'm like, exactly. And here's what I'm going to tell you.
And those voices. Talk about a show after. Go ahead. I'm reminding myself. Okay.
So the thing is that those voices, first of all, aren't yours. Once again, they're projections. You're going to hear your parents. You're going to hear like I was hearing my mom, my dad, my coworkers, everybody, you're bad this, you're bad that. And people don't want to hear this. That's why this is so well designed. We jump on the phone right away to quiet these voices. But here's what I'm going to tell you. The power is on the other side of those voices. Once you go on the other side, you're going to start hearing your higher self, your true self, right? I'm not being this ascended teacher right now. I'm not being this guru or anything. I'm telling you.
Those voices I refer to my clients, I call it your inner critic. Okay. We don't want to hear the inner critic. So we distract ourselves in TV and porn and video games and meaningless sex and whatever it is. This is you're talking about
at the beginning. It's the most difficult thing of practicing to spend time with yourself. But I'm going to tell you, every time that I've done this, like I've done it many times in my life. Like I used to go 3 days to a cottage by myself. I used to go, for my walks and hikes in the wood for myself and all these things. At first, it was very scary. I didn't enjoy any of it. But I'm going to tell you, that's where I did the most healing and self-realization. Is the awareness comes really high. And now these voices aren't into my head. They're always coming in, the critics, obviously. But now I'm hearing myself and my higher self and exactly who I truly am. And now I can go and I can actually recognize my ego, because a lot of people really put a lot of dark connotation on the ego. Listen to me. If you're alive listening to this today, your ego got you there. It's not evil. It's not bad. Your ego got you to get married, to go get a job, to do these things. The thing is that today, most people let the ego drive.
Yeah.
Instead of going, okay, like if somebody cuts me off or somebody says something, the ego is going to show up for self-protection. And it's a survival mechanism. So it's going to show up. And then now I recognize it. And I said, okay, is this serving me? Is this the time for the ego, or is it the time for the teacher to show up, or the coach, or the warrior, or whatever that is? And now I can say, you know what, ego, thank you very much for showing up. I don't need you right now. I got this. That's the difference. So to answer once again, to come back and tie a bow on this, is that you don't need to go on this big journey. Read the book, The Alchemist, and then start setting times for yourself, for your own personal journey of finding who you truly are. And you're going to find some really interesting parts of yourself that you don't even know that were there.
Yeah.
The inner child. Everybody talks about the inner child. That kid, that little Bruno, is so powerful. It's the most powerful of all my personality. It's the one that it's unconditionally loving, that has the most. He's always the one showing up when it's time for fun. When I'm coaching, believe it or not, it's little Bruno, because I'm curious. I want to know more about you. So I ask the right questions. This is how it is.
We don't talk about Bruno. That's all.
No, we don't. Exactly.
So exactly. I wrote down a note because I wanted to come back to this. So and my understanding is like, okay, you don't need this big month and a half. Doesn't have to be some huge break or big journey or something expensive. It could be literally hours hiking alone, or an overnight hike, or something you can do on a weekend that doesn't cost a lot of money, but it's just about getting out of your usual surroundings and being with yourself. And I'd say like hours. I would say hours versus.
Oh, it has to be. Yeah.
Again, a 1 hour walk in the woods is like, you're scratching the surface so little. I think it's got to be something that makes you kind of uncomfortable to do. That's what I think. I think, I can go for a 2-3 hour walk and not be a big deal for me. But if I challenged myself and said, I'm going to go on an overnight hike alone, I'm scared, because that's many hours of me being with me, and who knows what's going to come out. I might go to bed early. I might cry. I might like literally rock like myself into like some anxious state. I don't know. That's a lot of time.
You must be uncomfortable. I'm going to tell you, this is going to be the most uncomfortable thing for you to do if you've never done this. And here's the other thing. There's things you can do to bring you there, right? A lot of people talk about, I'm going to bring one up, fasting.
Mm.
People fast. This intermittent fasting is good for fitness and all these things. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you read any of the sacred texts across the board, there's fasting involved in there, right? And the Muslims, they have the Ramadan. Mm-hmm. They have, in a Christian, you got the fasting and all these things. I'm going to tell you, with my military training, we went to sleep and food deprivation to really find out who you are and how you're going to react. When you get to meet sides of you when you are fasting that you didn't even know were existing. This is what I'm telling you. So it starts with a 24 hours, then it goes to a 4-day and then a 7-day. And this is where I'm going to bring it up. I found sides of me. You're going to really meet the real you. This is what I'm trying to convey to the audience, to actually meet the real you. And you can't do that if you're constantly distracted on Facebook, or if somebody's with you or talking and all these things, or go to a retreat. You know, you've heard of those retreat where it's like no talking for 7 days.
Silent retreats. Yeah.
People go absolutely bonkers. And most people come out of there and they go, holy shit, I've met someone. And they go, who? Me. And yeah.
So please tell me that you have watched the show Alone. If you haven't, oh my God,
the show Alone.
So excited to tell you about this. So it's Amazon Prime. There's 9 seasons now. And the show is called Alone. And the entire premise of the show is, they usually are survival experts. They all are survival experts. They get put into northern Vancouver Island, and then in later seasons, Patagonia and other places. They get dropped alone in the wilderness with only 10 survival items. And they have to make their own shelter, harvest their own food, and they have nobody there with them. So
where do I sign up for this?
It's Amazon Prime, man. It is. So my partner and I have watched almost every single season. So the point I'm making is, you're talking about going on this journey to be uncomfortable and like find yourself. And then you're talking about the element of fasting. Well, these people have to catch their own fish, and they have bows and arrows to hopefully, I mean, these people are eating mice or a squirrel because that's all they can find. But the outside of like the fascination with their survival skills and building traps and creating gill nets and putting shelters together and building fireplaces and using stone tools, which is all fascinating. The biggest challenge every single one of these people deal with is being fucking alone with their own thoughts. And some of them can't even last a night. They hit the, they have a radio that, you know, they get rescued as quickly as they can, because they're also in bear country and cougar country and wolf country. And some people go, I can't do this alone. I miss my family. I need to leave. And they are the ones that actually, so the ones that leave are the ones that actually have a good shelter built. They have food waiting for them. They actually have some level of comfortability. And then they have time alone with their thoughts, and they can't do it. And they pull the ripcord and they're out. And if they're trying to see who can last the longest, they get to about 40, 50 days. And then they win $500,000, sometimes $1 million. But to watch the mental psyche break down, and these people discover who they are and have these epiphanies and cry on camera, and men are emoting and they're angry and all this shit's coming out of them, is like the most fascinating part of watching this show. And they're also put in really, really tough conditions. I mean, they're living out there under a tarp, trying to catch their own food for 40 days straight in rain. I mean, that's going to break anybody down. So I'm not saying you need to go on that journey. In fact,
no,
because
we're talking about extremes, right?
This is extremes, but watch the show and watch these people's psyche, and who is okay with themselves, and who has this optimism, positivity that sometimes makes you go like, that person's crazy, and watch these other people just get destroyed. It's phenomenal. It's so worth watching. So worth watching.
Right. And so the point out of this is, which is I'm going to watch now, and I'm going to find out if I can sign up for this thing.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is that it comes down to this one thing. People are scared of spending time with themselves.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Right now we're talking, right? The whole point of this podcast is about relationship and expectation. What does that tell you? Me as a coach looking at this whole thing, if I'm listening to this, I'm going, well, people aren't showing up truly who they truly are.
Yeah.
They're not, everybody's showing up in a certain expectation, in a certain light, in a certain perception of other people's filter and all these things. So if people are personally afraid to spend time with themselves, what does that tell you about how they interact in a relationship? How
Yeah.
they interact with the outside world?
It usually means you don't really like who you are or know who you are. And you're just like so many guys I talked to, and had this one client I brought on my podcast ages ago. He has like 7 kids. He said, I am finally divorced. And he goes, I have been playing the husband role for over 25 years. He's like, and I couldn't even get that right. He goes, I've been fitting into some other mold of who I think I should have been for so goddamn long. And it killed him essentially. And I wrote down a few notes because I want to recap. Because I like tying things in, or expectation versus reality. Some of the things that we need to be realistic about is that we have to have such a high level of self-awareness in order to show up and have the kind of relationship we want to have.
That's where I would start.
We have to be, and so that ties into knowing oneself. And if you don't know who you are when you're with yourself for a long amount of time, you don't really know yourself, because you need to know your positive traits that you put out there in the world, which those but what about the darker side, the shadow self, the shit that comes up when you're not feeling good, or you're hungry, or you're tired, or you feel unloved? What part of you comes out then? So know yourself, have that self-awareness. Then you got to be vulnerable. Men, women, you got to be vulnerable. You have to share what you're liking, not liking, how you're feeling, in order to truly connect and have real intimacy. Otherwise, you're not going to have what you really want, right? Because you're only connecting on a superficial level. You got to find the right person to be vulnerable with, first and foremost. Men, you try and be vulnerable with a woman that doesn't appreciate you, it's going to backfire, and you're going to think that being vulnerable is never going to work for you. Because in that situation, it doesn't, right? You have to be vulnerable with someone who can love you and hold space for you and love those parts of you. You got to be able to sit with those uncomfortable emotions, right? To be able to have a long-term relationship. You got to carve out time for passions, right? And things that make you feel happy, even when it upsets your partner. Even when it upsets
you are not responsible for your partner's emotions. You
Yeah.
are not responsible for it.
I had this question written down. I wanted to ask you from the very beginning. Tell me why it's so hard for a man to say no to a woman. Tell me why. Why men have such a hard time saying, I'm sorry, babe, I can't do that tonight. Or I'm sorry, babe, I need time for myself this weekend. Or I'm sorry, but I can't do that. Or no, I don't want to. Why is it so hard for guys to say no to women?
Well, it's part of our wiring. It starts from, are you able to say no to your mom? Are you able to say no to your mom? You can't because they told you, don't say no to me. You can't say no to me. I'm the adult. I'm this thing, right? And then on top of that, once again, there's no right or wrong here on how to, first of all, nobody knows what they're doing raising kids. Nobody do. I told that to my 16-year-olds. Dad's trying to figure it out as we're going here, but I got 16 years experience is what I'm figuring out. I'm reading the books. I'm doing the things. I went to the courses. I actually took parenting courses and everything when I got divorced and all that thing. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Men are designed and wired to provide and to protect and to do these things. And I'm not being all chivalrous here or a knight in shining armor or anything. We're designed that way, to give and to provide. So when somebody asks us to, a woman that we care about, and it's all, we're so much on, I want to say this because you brought up some really good point, where everybody meets, especially when we're young adults, and then, these hormones kick in and everything. We're all on autopilot. Mm-hmm. Everybody's on autopilot. Oh man, you know what? I look at this girl and something inside of me happens. That must mean love, right? And then the other person goes, oh, I like that guy. And something's happening inside. We're in love, right? Remember being teenagers? We're in love, right? And then you, as you go, the self-awareness comes in, because when I had my gym before I became an executive coach here, I had a gym, and most of my clients were women. and 75% of it were women, and they would always come up. I'd see this pattern. I'm really good. My gifts is behaviors and patterns. Women would come up to me and says, "Oh man, I met this great guy. He's great and all these things and all that." 2 weeks later, oh, he's just another asshole. He's just, another thing and all that. And I'm thinking like, okay. And then, it happens. I was like, yeah, guys are assholes and bitches be crazy. I get it. So, but the thing is that when they would come up every few months or so, and it's the same pattern, I would stop being the coach that I am, the caregiver that I am. I would say, where do you meet these guys?
Mhm.
Like, where's your, and I would try for them to elicit these patterns that they would have, which would be, what do you want in a guy? And I'm going to tell you, the answer from most women are always, I just want a nice guy. Then I would go and pull up, or I would point to some of the guys in the gym and I would go, what about this guy? And they go, oh, no, not him. Oh, no, not him. Oh, no, not that guy. Come on, Bruno. He's got to be good looking. He's got to be, oh, that's what I was asking you. What do you need in a guy? And actually, I would get them to, this is when I would step out of my fitness coach to be that. I would start to get them to write a list of the things that they want and need from a man. And they would be surprised by the answers. They would go, oh my God, I need all of these things. And I'll go, yeah. Now I turn the page around and I say, where would you meet one of those guys? It's not over at the bar.
Love it. I have an exercise exactly like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So where you would meet that? And then the last question was, yeah, I could meet him. They would answer, I could meet him at work, or I would meet him at this hobby or whatever. And all these things I would get, okay. Now the last powerful question, which was the one that would wake people up. Who do you need to be to attract this person?
That question is my worksheet too. I love it. It's so honest.
Right? So who do you need to be to attract this person? It's the same thing for men that you're out there, right? Obviously, women are extremely beautiful. They're pressing all the buttons because we only got one button, right? So we're looking at that. But actually, if you sit down, right, and we say we're that simple, but we're also looking for intimacy, understanding, openness, all these things, right? Write the list of the woman that you need, that you want, that you can design for, and then go and find out where she hangs out, and then who do you need to be to attract this person? Because if you want somebody who is a business entrepreneur lady, who's a kick-ass chick and all these things, are you working out? Are you the type of person she would be attracted to?
Exactly. Right? I say this because so many men that do choose to work with me, or at least are interested in learning how they can change their relationships or attract quality women. I usually, like, I also call myself a life coach, because I say, well, what are you doing in your life right now? And let's be real, not all my clients, a lot of them are saying, well, I work from home, and I don't have much of a social life. And I'm not saying these people aren't good people. These are great people, but they're the types of women they're wanting to attract are developing themselves, or they're taking courses, or they're out taking tennis lessons, or they're living an active lifestyle. And so when in this exercise, it does flip back on them and say, well, two things: what's blocking you from becoming this person, and what do you need to do to become the type of man that's naturally going to attract these women to you? Because it's hard to do that when you don't leave your house. I mean, it's impossible to do that when you don't leave your house. You're relying too much on a dating app. And unfortunately, your energy and aura doesn't protrude very far out of a dating app. So
we're living in a society. This is what I'm going to tell you. Our brain, our basic needs is to always find the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
That's why we create things to go better. But the thing with the dating apps and all these things, and I don't say anything bad about the dating apps, because that's where I met my wife, on Tinder.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's great. But we had a different profile and a different approach to it. That's for sure. Me and you, Kimbo. But the thing is that people are always looking for the path of least resistance, and they're sitting on the couch and they're looking at, I'm going to speak as a man, you're looking at all these dimes, what we call them, these tens, right? You're like, oh yeah, man, that's these. And then you go click on that, and then let's talk and everything. And there's so much, once again, expectation.
Yeah.
People are always projecting what they should be. and they're not doing the work. Everybody's expecting high elite results with substandards quality of, of habits and all these things.
Yeah.
And listen, the average bear out there, right? We're just going to take that, right? When people say, how can I be better? I said, well, most high performers and CEOs read anywhere between 50 to 60 books a year.
Mm-hmm.
The average bear, 1.5. They make 375% more income than the average person. Do you think it's related? They work out on a daily basis. They eat well on a daily basis. They have a system that gets them to be able to operate at that high level. Now, I'm not a CEO, high performer groupie. I'm all about, like, actually, I've changed myself personally, especially after this trip. I'm all into being the more into a self-awareness and Zen-like life. So the right balance and the right everything, because I'm actually, because I'm coaching these CEOs that focused on career and success, and then they get to a certain point at 50 years old, they turn around, where's the family, where's my health, where's all these things, where did that all go? Because they let that go on the side. So once again, just to bring it back to the conversation, was self-awareness. What are you doing to attract the right partner? And how can you attract the right partner if, one, you don't even know yourself, and then you don't even know what you want out of a partner? You're just on autopilot. Autopilot sets up expectation. You're going to get disappointed. You're not going to show up as the true you. She's not going to show up as the true her. And then all of a sudden, after the flame and the spark and everything has run away, then things go, wait a minute. Who am I? Who's in my bed? Like, who am I married to?
Who's this guy married?
We know how to fix this. Let's have some kids.
That totally takes us full circle, doesn't it? Which is probably a good time for us to wind down, because we could gab so much longer, but it's been an hour and a half. And I know you got stuff and I've got stuff, but wow. I mean, I don't know what people are taking away from this. I think a lot. We started, on the journey of, do you even want kids and why do you want them? But also understanding, what are you expecting from your relationship versus even what you're giving in order to get that. Because I believe in the universal, laws, 12 laws of the universe. And I do very much believe that what we contribute and what we give to the world comes back to us. And
there must be an exchange.
There's an exchange. And if we are really unsatisfied in our lives, and we're unsatisfied in our environment, and we're unsatisfied with our job, and we're unsatisfied with our friends, and we're unsatisfied with how we eat, and we're unsatisfied with our family dynamics, then how can you expect to have like some banging 11 out of 10 woman just drift into your life and everything get magically fixed? She can't do that for you. She can't do that for you. You got to do that for you. You got to do that for you.
Right. And it's the same thing from the other side, right? There's this pressure put on women from society to look like a 10, 24/7, and look a certain way and act a certain way and everything. And once again, it's unsustainable. None of it is sustainable. Nobody can be 100% performing. Your car can't even do that. Machines can't even do that. Why would human be expected to perform at 100% all the time? You need downtime. You need all these things. And once again, self-awareness.
Yeah, I love it. So snippet of what you're primarily focusing on right now. And then give me all your updated links again on where people can reach out to you, because I know they're going to. So.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. So first of all, this has been amazing. And you're right. Me and you, when we start, we have a hard time finishing.
But I am, forgive me.
Lucky for me, as I grow into my personal life, I grow into my coaching. I first started as a fitness coach. After my military career, I first started as a fitness coach, and then I became a speaker and executive coach, working for corporate, working for companies, all these things, building teams, using my military skills to be able to do that. And then I actually realized that I was injured because that's why I got out of the military. I needed to work on my own healing. So now what I do work in it, I still am an executive coach, but it's more focused on self-awareness and self-realization, because I'm finding that that's the missing point right now. There's a lot of healing that needs to happen, both personally, locally, community, as a country, as a planet. There's healing that needs to happen. We're so divided, and people, you can't heal other people. You need to be able to heal yourself. Nobody's coming to save you. You're your own savior.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that. I was struggling with the savior complex. I was saving everybody else but myself. So now I'm in the airplane, putting on the oxygen mask on me, and I'm lucky to be able to deliver that to my clients, to help them figure themselves out, basically creating catalysts without the catalyst in real life, and figuring that out. So they can reach out to me on at brunogouvernement.com, on Instagram, Bruno Gouvernement, on Facebook. Those are the best place. Obviously, they can listen to my podcast, the Battle Plan Podcast. It's more geared towards veterans and first responders and all these things, because that's where I come from. But we're going to share. We're sharing a lot. You're on that, and we'll get you back. And basically, just reach out and ask me your questions. I'm always open to answer questions. I've never not answered anybody that has sent something to me. So
that's amazing. That's awesome.
If you're not reaching out, this is what I tell to everybody. If you're not reaching out and asking me the questions that are important for you, you're making a choice.
Yeah.
Right. You're deciding to stay stuck. Don't stay stuck. You got Kim over here. That's an expert in relationship and an expert in life. Me and you, every time that we talk, man, we find so much about each other. We can't stop. Like, look at this. We're still going. And then, but basically, once again, it's about, if you decide to not reach out, you're making a choice. So start making better choices.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect place to end. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Self-Confidence Project, and look forward to releasing another one next week. Ciao.